My phone buzzed at 1:04 a.m. "Mr. Reeves, this is Officer Malone with the Fairview County Sheriff's Department. We found your grandson. He's safe. We've got him at the station." Not hello, not sorry to wake you. Just those words, flat and rehearsed, cutting through the dark of my bedroom before my eyes had even adjusted. I sat up so fast my head spun. "That's not possible," I said. "He's asleep. He's right here." There was a pause on the line, the kind that tells you the person on the other end thinks you're confused, or lying, or don't understand your own situation. "Sir, we ran his information. 7 years old, brown hair, small burn scar on his left forearm, reported missing 11 months ago. He matched every detail. He's sitting 15 feet from me right now." I didn't answer. I couldn't. I was already halfway down the hallway, phone pressed so hard to my ear it hurt, pushing open the guest room door. And there he was, my grandson, curled under the dinosaur blanket his mother bought him the Christmas before she died, chest rising and falling, one sock on, one sock off, exactly the way he always slept. "Officer," I said, my voice barely holding together, "I'm looking at him right now. He never left this house." The silence that followed lasted 3 full seconds. 3 seconds that would end up cracking open a secret my family had been sitting on top of for 7 years, without any of us knowing it was there. "Mr. Reeves," the officer said slowly, "I think you need to come down here right now. Because whoever this boy is, sir, he says his name is Owen Reeves, too. And he's got your grandson's face." I grabbed my keys. "My name is Daniel Reeves. I'm 58. I spent 31 years fixing transmissions at a shop off Route 40 in a town called Millbrook. 2 years ago, my daughter Megan died, 31 years old, one bad pill at a friend's house, the kind of tragedy that's become so common. People barely blink unless it happens to someone they love. It happened to the person I loved most, besides my late wife Carol, who I'd lost to cancer 4 years before that. Megan left behind a son, Owen, 6 at the time, 7 now. His father, Megan's ex-husband Ray, had been gone in every way that mattered since Owen was 2. Not cruel, just weak, the kind of man who disappears when things get hard. I became Owen's father in practice the week Megan died. He was my grandson, born on a Tuesday in March. I was in the waiting room when the nurse said it was a boy, or so I believed for 7 years. Somewhere around month 14 after Megan's death, without either of us deciding it out loud, Grandpa Dan quietly became Dad. I never corrected him. I remember the first time it slipped out. He'd knocked over his juice, looked up terrified, and said, "Dad, I'm sorry," then went still, like he wasn't sure the word was allowed. I just grabbed a towel and said it was fine. Neither of us mentioned it again, but something settled into place that day that we both needed more than we admitted. Ray's mother, Diane, had never liked our family much. She thought we were beneath her son. After the divorce, she mostly vanished too, except for the occasional birthday card addressed only to Owen. I thought I understood every corner of this family's grief. I was wrong. There was a corner none of us had been allowed to see, and that night, driving to a police station at 1 in the morning, I was about to find it whether I was ready or not. I woke Owen gently, told him we were taking a boring nighttime drive, and he was groggy enough to believe me, asleep again within 10 minutes, his dinosaur blanket bunched against the window. I drove with both hands white-knuckled on the wheel, rejecting explanations as fast as I formed them. A scam, a mix-up, but scammers ask for money over the phone. This officer had asked me to come in person. That was something else. The station was too bright for 1 in the morning. The desk officer's face did something I'll never forget when she saw us. Confusion, then something closer to shock. Officer Malone led me down a hallway past missing pet flyers into a waiting room with plastic chairs bolted to the floor, and there, under a buzzing light, holding a paper cup of hot chocolate, sat a boy, 7 years old, brown hair cut rough like kitchen scissors, too thin, sneakers 2 sizes too big, laces double knotted like a kid who'd taught himself because no one else had, and his face was Owen's face, not similar. His face. Owen stirred against my shoulder, woke, and went very still. "Grandpa, why does that kid look like me?" I had no answer. Officer Malone told me the boy called himself Caleb, found walking alone along Route 9 at midnight, 3 miles from the nearest house. When they ran his name, it flagged a missing person report filed 11 months earlier for a boy named Owen Reeves. "I never filed that report," I said. "Owen's never been missing a day in his life." Malone nodded slowly. "Which means somebody else filed it. Somebody who had a boy who looked exactly like your grandson and needed people to stop looking too closely at where he came from." 2 hours of records checks later, Malone turned his laptop toward me. The name listed as Caleb's guardian was Diane, my former son-in-law's mother. The story, once it came out, was almost too much to hold. 7 years earlier, around the time Megan gave birth to Owen, hospital records showed a second birth the same day. Twins. One named Owen, kept by Megan and Ray. The other, placed through a private arrangement, given to Diane, and raised under the name Caleb. I sat down hard in one of those plastic chairs. My daughter had 2 sons. Only one had ever come home. And suddenly I remembered things I'd buried without examining. Megan's strange quiet in the weeks after Owen's birth. Ray barely visiting the hospital room. Diane appearing once, speaking with Ray alone in the hallway for 20 minutes, and leaving without holding the baby. I remembered finding Megan on the back porch at 2 a.m. weeks later, staring at nothing, telling me she was just tired. I'd believed her, because it never once occurred to me there could be a second nursery none of us were allowed to see. Officer Malone told me gently there was no court order behind Caleb's placement, no formal consent beyond a signature that would need to be verified, an off-the-books arrangement. They'd need to bring Diane in. She arrived just before dawn, older than I remembered, her cardigan buttoned wrong. The moment she saw both boys sitting together, something in her face gave out. "I thought I was protecting him," she said, her voice shaking. "Protecting both of them." "From what, Diane? From knowing they had a brother?" The story came out in pieces. Megan and Ray's marriage had been quietly falling apart before the twins were born. Money troubles, drinking, fights Megan never told me about. When the ultrasound showed twins, Diane convinced herself, then Ray, that the family couldn't handle 2, delivering that decision to Ray in a hospital hallway while Megan was still recovering, exhausted and never consulted. "She was in no state to decide," Diane said. "Someone had to think clearly." "So you decided," I said, "what my daughter got to keep." She'd arranged the placement through a lawyer from her church, telling herself she'd bring the truth out once things were stable, once Ray got a real job, once the drinking stopped. Then Megan died, and admitting it felt like burying a piece of her daughter all over again. Caleb had grown up isolated with an aging, overwhelmed guardian, learning early not to ask questions. 2 nights before that phone call, after an argument Diane still wouldn't fully explain, he'd run, not knowing where he was going, just that somewhere out there was a boy who looked like him, something Diane had let slip once in a moment of exhaustion. Ray arrived an hour later. When I asked why he'd never said anything in 7 years, he said only, "I was scared. Scared of doing the right thing," I told him. He had nothing to say to that. Nobody did. But in the middle of all the shouting and crying, something simple happened. Owen reached over and took Caleb's hand. "Are you my brother?" he whispered. Caleb looked down at their joined hands like it might not be real if he looked too long. "I think so," he said. "Cool," Owen said. And in the middle of the worst night my family had faced since Megan's funeral, my grandson smiled. The legal process took months, but the court eventually granted me permanent custody of both boys, twins, born the same day, raised apart for 7 years by a decision none of us had been allowed to make together. It wasn't easy. Caleb flinched at loud noises for months, hid food under his pillow out of habit, until he trusted the pantry would still be full tomorrow. He called me Mr. Reeves for 6 weeks, until one night at dinner, watching Owen call me Dad, he quietly asked if he could try it too. I told him it was overdue. Diane is in counseling now, seeing the boys twice a month, supervised. I've made a slow, imperfect peace with the fact that hating her forever wouldn't give the boys back a single lost year. Ray sees them less. That may change. It may not. Most nights now, I stand in that hallway a little longer than I need to, watching 2 chests rise and fall in the dark instead of one. Grief and joy, living in the same house, sometimes in the same breath. Megan would have found them both. I believe that completely. It just took the rest of us longer to catch up to what she already knew. If Daniel's story moved you, hit like, tell us in the comments what you would have done in his place, and subscribe to Aftermathtales for more powerful stories like this one.